How will the world end? We've asked this question for centuries, through scripture, through science, and even through cinema. Some say it ends in fire while others say it ends in ice. But Eduardo Dayo's Violator offers a different kind of ending. In this film, the apocalypse doesn't arrive with explosions or angels trumpeting from the heavens. It creeps in through the storm, the silence, and the stillness of man trapped inside a police station. There's no spectacle, only dread, the kind that seeps slowly into the cracks of faith and morality. Dayo's Violator is not interested in showing us the end of the world. It asks whether the world has already ended, whether we've been living long after the lights went out, waiting for something or someone to tell us it's over.
Parang nagpupunaw na ang mundo sa labas.
Yung sabing naniniwala na kayo dyan, G.
Ano mang may kinalaman sa Diyos, hindi na ako naniniwala.
And so the horror of Violator isn't the devil in the corner. It's the realization that even without him, humanity is already good at destroying itself.
Sinapian niya bata.
So today, let's look at the philosophy behind Violator, what it shows and what it's trying to tell us. Let's start with the film's setting. The police station in Violator is more than a backdrop. It's a purgatory, a place caught between order and chaos, faith and surrender. The men inside it, police officers, criminals, survivors, bystanders, are no longer simply people. They are ideas waiting to be judged. The storm outside howls like divine punishment, but inside, everything stands still. Power flickers, lights fail, and conversations turn into confessions. The walls of the station, once built to contain criminals, now contain fear. The kind that comes when man faces the limits of his own power. In many ways, Violator is a film about the collapse of a system, not just of law and order, but of belief, in institutions, in morality, and even in God. The officers inside the precinct represents different ways of coping with the collapse. Some deny it, others rationalize it, and one or two simply wait for it to be over. Philosophically, the film resonates with the existential dread of writers such as Albert Camus and Fyodor Dostoevsky, in which man, faced with absurdity, still seeks meaning. In Violator, the storm becomes that absurdity. It doesn't explain, it doesn't justify, it simply is. And so the police station becomes a mirror. The question isn't what's out there, but what's left in here. When faced with the end, or perhaps the truth, what remains of us? Now, let's talk about the devil. In most horror films, the devil shows up to scare people. In Violator, he shows up to ask questions.
Kaano niyo si Jopring, sir? Kilala niyo ba si si Mang Paket, yung naggagawa ng aircon doon?
The man in the cell never needs to raise his voice. He doesn't even need to prove who he is. The power of the devil here isn't in the theatrics. It's in the silence between his words. It's in the way he forces each other to confront the one thing they've been avoiding: their own guilt, their own demons. This is where Violator becomes deeply philosophical. The devil isn't treated like a monster lurking in the shadows. He's portrayed more like an idea.
Iniwala pa pala kayo sa ganon.
Pwede.
A manifestation of everything these men fear about themselves. He could be supernatural, or he could just be a man who knows exactly where a person's moral cracks are. The film never says, and it doesn't even need to, because Violator is not interested in proving whether the devil is real. It's more interested in the possibility that he doesn't have to be. What if evil doesn't just enter your life as a horned creature or a demonic storm? What if evil is just the moment you stop believing in something? In duty, in compassion, in the systems meant to protect you. This is the philosophical core of the film. Evil doesn't break down the world. Doubt does. When the officers begin to lose faith in the law, in themselves, in God, Everything collapses. Their fear doesn't come from the prisoner. It comes from realizing that the thin line separating them from darkness is much weaker than they thought. The devil in Violator represents that collapse. He's not here to possess anyone. He's here to show them they were already halfway gone.
Ang weak.
And that's what makes the film chilling. It argues that the apocalypse isn't a cosmic event, it's an internal one. Speaking of apocalypses, most end of the world stories gives us fire, destruction, or some cosmic catastrophe. Violator gives us rain. Floodwater is slowly swallowing streets. Static on the radio. Systems are failing with no clear point of collapse. But if you look closely, this isn't just an apocalyptic disaster. It's the film echoing one of humanity's oldest flood stories, the story of Noah's Ark. In the biblical narrative, the flood isn't just punishment, it's a revelation. When the waters rise, the truth rises with them. That's precisely what happens in Violator. The storm outside is a mirror of the inner storm each character carries. As the rain intensifies, so do their doubts, fears, guilt, and compromises. They cling to procedure, bureaucracy, and their badges the way people once clung to the higher ground. But the water keeps rising anyway.
Pero binatuta ko lang, tapos pinusasan ko.
In Noah's Ark, only a few are saved. Not because of heroism, but because they listened. In Violator, nobody listens. Nobody got saved. And that's the terrifying philosophical angle of Dio's film. It's not the flood that destroys the world. It's the refusal to build an ark. The police captain, the rookie, the corrupt officer, the bystanders, they all face the same storm. But none of them do anything to morally rise above it. Instead, the flood exposes them. Their illusions of control, their fragile sense of authority, their shaky faith, their moral shortcuts. The devil doesn't need to tempt them. The devil only needs to reveal them. Just like in the Noah story, the flood is less about divine wrath and more about truth washing everything clean. Only this time, there is no chosen man, no divine instructions, no ark.
Yan na naman sila.
Just a present, a place meant to symbolize order becoming a sinking ship. When the waters stop rising, the world outside looks almost normal again. But the damage, like in any flood myth, is internal, permanent. The world ends not when the devil arrives, but when the characters stop believing they have the strength or the will to resist him. If there's one thing Violator is brutally honest about, it's this. The world doesn't end because demons walk the earth. It ends because people don't know who they are without their structures. And in Violator, those structures, authority, and faith are already barely holding together. The present isn't a fortress of order. It's a room full of men who are performing authority because they don't know what else to do. You can see this in Gilberto Pring, a man who wears the role of officer like armor even though the world outside refuses to obey the rules on which he built his identity. Or in Benito Alano, a character whose age and seniority should imply wisdom and stability, but instead reveal exhaustion and futility. He's a man who has lived long enough to know that authority is primarily symbolic, and symbols are of little help during the apocalypse. Even the younger officer and bystander, they treat procedure like a ritual. They follow steps, cling to routines, and try to act like police, but it's obvious they don't fully understand the weight of that responsibility. They only understand the shape of the role, not its meaning. Authority in Violator isn't a strength, it's a performance, a thin identity that collapses once the world stops playing along. Now, if authority fails, you'd think faith would step in. But faith in Violator isn't conviction. It's panic wrapped in religious imagery. Every attempt at prayers, superstition, or ritual cults feels less like devotion and more like desperation.
Kaya nga tayo nandito. We've been called. Wow ha. Teka, tama ba yung dinadaanan natin? Bakit naman niya ako iwawala? Yun! Yun, doon tayo.
Like the characters are grabbing at floating debris while drowning. There's no clarity, no enlightenment, no peace. Fate becomes a mirror, a way to see which characters crumble, which ones cling harder, and which ones pretend they don't need anything at all. To be clear, Dayao isn't attacking any religion here. He's revealing what faith looks like when it's used as a defense mechanism instead of a belief system. And that leads to the film's central philosophical question. What do you really believe when the world no longer gives you a reason to think about anything? In the end, Violator is not a film about demons, storms, or the literal end of the world. It's a film about the more minor, quieter apocalypses people carry inside. The fears they suppress, the doubts they hide, the guilt they pretend isn't there. The devil in the jail cell is just a mirror. The storm is just an amplifier. What destroys the character is not some supernatural force, but the simple truth that when everything familiar collapses, they no longer know how to function. What makes Violator so compelling and so unsettling is that it treats the end of the world as something deeply personal. The world doesn't end with a bang. It ends in a cramped precinct, under flickering lights, while grown men struggle to understand what they're supposed to do when the rules they've relied on no longer apply. It ends with a group of people who were never prepared to face themselves, forced into silence with their own fears. And that's why the film lingers. It suggests that apocalypse isn't an event but a condition, a slow erosion of certainty, morality, and identity. Sometimes the world ends because we decide it's easier not to make a choice, because we're afraid of acting, because we're waiting for someone else to tell us what comes next. In Violator, the devil doesn't win because he's strong. He wins because the people facing him don't know who they are without their systems, their structures, and their borrowed sense of authority. And maybe that's the scariest part, the idea that the end of the world starts the moment we abandon responsibility, surrender our agency, and allow fear to make the choices for us. Because if Violator has one haunting lesson, it's this: the apocalypse doesn't begin outside, it begins within. Thank you so much for watching the video. Watching Violator is an experience. I have to say it. Violator is a different kind of movie. Not in a bad way, but you know, it's a different kind of experience. And I feel like everything that I've said here in the video, it's not enough. There's some things I might have missed out. So if you have some things to say as well about the movie, feel free to comment it down below. Let's talk about this film. I feel like it's an amazing film and it has a lot of things to say as well. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our Patreon and our YouTube members. Nadagdagan ho tayo and I'm really thankful for that one. You are the reason, guys, on why I keep on doing this one, because your support is always in there. And of course, our subscribers and our viewers and our watchers. You guys are the reason why I can still do this thing. It's because of you guys. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please help me out as well. Feel free to subscribe down below. I upload every Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that day. I'm consistent on uploading every Wednesday, so watch out for Wednesday because I'll be uploading the next video. Feel free to watch Violator. It's a mumblecore art house type of film, and I feel like you guys would enjoy the movie as well. I guess that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Peace!